What's going on, YouTube? Today I am back after a 5-month hiatus. I am returning with hope to upload a bit more consistently and more in general. Um, I'm also just curious before we get into it to know if you guys would be curious to see like a face cam. Some people like it, some people don't. But either way, let's get into my top 10 quarterbacks for the 23 class as of right now. Starting at number one, I have Bryce Young. Um, it's kind of a battle between him and CJ Stroud for sure. You have different people saying, different things, right? CJ Stroud definitely has a better frame, and he's definitely played a bit more pro style than say Bryce Young. However, with Bryce Young, despite the size, despite the fact that he does have a tiny bit of an injury concern, simply put, I think he's the combination of the most pro ready as well as the most high upside guy in this class. Now, I wouldn't say he's the most high upside, but he's just got the best combination of both. I think he's got actually a pretty safe floor for the most part. I really trust that Bryce Young can go somewhere where the situation and the coaching isn't great, and I think he still can succeed. And that's really what puts him at number one for me and over the top is just the fact that he's shown that he has the big arm. He is athletic. He can make the big plays, and he doesn't actually have that great of an offense compared to, like, say, Ohio State. Yeah, of course, Alabama's always going to have good talent, but it's really just him and Jahmyr Gibbs on offense there. So Bryce Young, he's done incredible things. They look completely different on offense when he's not playing. To me, he is the number one quarterback in the class, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he'll be the first taken. I think if you're a team that you trust your offense, your situation, your talent developers, I would absolutely take my number two guy in CJ Stroud, who I do believe probably has the biggest upside of this class. Out of anyone here, if there's someone I would take to be a future MVP, it's CJ Stroud. Bryce Young doesn't quite have the ceiling, but he does have a higher floor, and that's kind of my worry with CJ Stroud is 6'3", 218. He's got a good build. He plays pro style, but can definitely play off script. But I think he's going to have an issue doing it in the NFL. He has the best surrounding situation in college football. He's got an incredible offensive line. He's got a fantastic running back. And the receiving core is just nuts. I mean, he's had guys like Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. I can't say it correctly, I don't think, but it's like Emeka Ibuka. I'm sure I butchered that, but he's incredible. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been fantastic this year. He's had incredible talent there around him at Ohio State, and I'm just kind of worried that that's going to hurt him at the NFL level, that he won't have those supporting casts. And with the way he plays, he definitely relies on his supporting cast sometimes. He's not the most athletic guy. He's not the best outside the numbers, and he's improved, of course, at Ohio State, but I also don't think he's shown quite the elite traits you look for in a quarterback that is going to try to deliver those pocket passes. Like, he can certainly get out of the pocket, but for the most part, he's a pocket quarterback. And that just worries me because I don't feel like he'll have even close to as good of a situation in the NFL as he has at Ohio State. And so if he does get going, it's certainly going to take a couple or 3 years, is my fear. So CJ Stroud, um, very talented quarterback, has extremely good traits. I'm just worried about him at the NFL level, and that's why he's at number two for me. Number three, and really the surprise of this year, is Hendon Hooker. And this guy has simply been phenomenal this year. He has taken that next step that you want a senior quarterback with his traits and his size to take. Even before last year, he always had the arm, he always had the mobility, he always had the size, but it was really getting down the rest of the game. Footwork, mentality, hitting the middle of the field, reading a defense, and he's improved at all four of those things. Um, I don't have any big negatives. Like, he can always improve at stuff, right? He's still not an elite passer down the middle of the field. He's not elite at reading defenses, but he's certainly improved tremendously. He is very well worth a first round pick at this point. And honestly, he's the Heisman. Unless something changes, he will win the Heisman Trophy. He's been insane. Really hasn't had a bad game all year. Every week, just 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. Maybe a pick, big yards. He's just simply put been incredible this year. The former basketball player is going to be pretty good at the NFL level, should he get a good situation around him. And I think that's the case for a lot of quarterbacks in this year's class. It's every quarterback, right? Surrounding situation is the most important part of the quarterback game. But there's a lot of guys here where it's like what kind of situation they land in could absolutely determine their fate in the NFL. And Hendon Hooker is one of the best examples of that. I don't care that he's an older prospect. Quarterbacks last longer than ever. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to hate about Hendon Hooker. He's not one or two, right? He's only got really this one great year. And I think that's what keeps him out, right? Is like he could totally be like a Joe Burrow type, but we can't be quite sure of that. So number 3 for me, but still very high up. Moving on to number 4, Anthony Richardson. Now 4 through 6 are kind of guys where it's like we don't know if they're going to come out or not. But at the same time, does it really benefit them to wait till next year, considering you have Quinn Ewers, Caleb Williams, Drake May potentially? Um, but as far as these next 3 guys, Anthony Richardson might have the highest upside of anyone in this class besides CJ Stroud. 6'4, 232. He's Cam Newton 2.0. And there's not much to disagree about that. He's not the greatest passer in the world, but he is improving. But the dude just has such a big frame and size, and yet he knows how to use it so well on the run. He's not Cam Newton, but he's very, very similar. And he's not, Cam Newton was a Heisman, right? At Auburn. He was incredible there. So he's not quite that level, but there's absolutely a Josh Allen like outcome to this guy. Again, given the proper situation, the proper coaching, he could be an extremely dangerous threat to any team at the NFL level. But again, a guy that's probably going to take a year or two at least to get going. And so that's kind of the thing is like maybe this is a guy I'd love to take like late first if you already have like a quarterback he can kind of develop behind potentially. I don't know how many of those guys there really are right now in the league where it's like, the Packers, like, do you want to spend a first round pick on a quarterback right now? Um, Same with the Buccaneers. Like, he's not going to go in and start for you right away. And if he does, it's not going to be a good decision. So, Anthony Richardson, regardless, extremely talented quarterback, great frame, great size, great mobility, just keeps improving. He's not been great this year. He hasn't. But the traits alone are just simply too good for a team to not pick him in the first round, in my opinion. Number 5, we have Tyler Van Dyke out of Miami, and another guy who really just hasn't been that great. But once again, high upside, has the traits. I don't see him being a first round pick at this point, and I think it would probably be good for him to actually go back for a season. Like Anthony Richardson, I'd be cool if he still came out, right? Because you're going to take a few years regardless. Van Dyke, I think he could really benefit from transferring. Honestly, I think that'd be the best course of action for him. Miami is not a good team to be around when you're a high upside quarterback like he is, because he's not good enough to elevate the team, but the team's also not good enough to show what he can truly do. I do believe there's a great quarterback locked in there. Great size, great arm, great mobility. I just don't feel like Miami is the proper place for him to be to show what he can do. So I feel like transferring and then playing a year somewhere else would actually be best for him. But regardless, I'd still say worth a second round pick. Once again, proper situation, proper coaching. This guy could be a dangerous player at the next level. He's got it all. He just needs to improve at a few core things, but very teachable things. And another guy that could be really good. And kind of rounding out this kind of 4 to 6 area, we got Cameron Ward, who is a little different than the last couple of guys because the last few guys they're bigger guys. That are these like big arms, high upside. With Cameron Ward, like he has high upside, but I don't think quite to the degree of the guys we've talked about so far. Second or third round grade. Like I just don't. There's no way this guy sneaks in the first, right? If anything, he's a day 2 pick with high upside, and it might benefit him to go back one more year. But I almost even say it might be best for him to come out this year because I think you give yourself the best chance to go to a team, really learn to develop under someone or some coach and kind of develop your game further. He's not particularly bad at anything. He's been pretty good this year for Washington State, but he plays, on a team that doesn't have the best of talent. So, I mean, there's stuff to like about him. He's shown good stuff for not being surrounded with great talent. But I think you just look at him, he's just not on the same level as some of these other guys. He doesn't have the upside of Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, like none of those guys. But I think at the very least can certainly be a very good backup, if not a starter. There is starter upside with him here. I just don't see MVP upside. but still a very worthwhile prospect, worth a day two pick, in my opinion. Number seven, and an unpopular pick, is Will Levis. This is not recency bias. I've been lower on Will Levis through this entire cycle, but I think the Tennessee game really just proved kind of my worries that this guy is probably the biggest hit or miss prospect in this class of any position, most likely. He has size. He's got a decent arm. His accuracy is pretty good most of the time. He's decently athletic. Like across the board, he's just kind of like he's solid at this, and He's got a good supporting cast at Kentucky. But the issue is that he has such high upside. All of those things I just mentioned, accuracy, mobility, his arm, like all this stuff, he has really, really high upside on. He's another guy that could be a phenomenal quarterback. And the reason he comes under Cam Ward, though, is just simply because I just really don't see this guy working out at the next level. I think he's worth a day two pick, absolutely, just because of the upside, because of the potential, and that he's a solid quarterback. But his floor is also just so low, and he showed it. When he faces a good defense, he just crumbles. And he has his good games, obviously, but for the most part, for a guy of his size that has had time to develop in college here, like Hendon Hooker, he took that next step in his senior year where he took his traits he was already good at, he made those better, but he improved at everything else. And Will Levis, I just don't feel has done that. And that, it's like I wish he would have. I wish he would have shown me consistency with his elite traits and improvement with his other traits, and he just hasn't done either, in my opinion. So, not even not even considering the fact that he was downright awful against Tennessee this last week. I was never that high on him, and that game just kind of confirmed my fears. So, Will Levis, still worth a day two pick, high upside, could absolutely be great. I don't think he will be. Number 8, we have DJ Ungulele, I believe is how you say it, and this is a weird prospect because I think out of the 8 guys we've talked of so far, Ungulele has the lowest ceiling and one of the lower floors, but I would still definitely take him with like a late day two pick. And I think the reasoning for that is because you look at him, the size, the fact that he has played good at times for sure at Clemson, that he has delivered some great throws, he has had some wow plays. Like, it's there, but it's not consistent. And I don't feel it ever will be, is the issue. I see him as a pretty good backup at the NFL level with starter upside, but like at best, like a bottom 10 starter. I just don't see it, right? And when you follow up Trevor Lawrence, like you're expected to do good things, and he just hasn't. He's had his best season of his college career so far this year, being that he's a junior, but even then, it's not been that great of a season for him. Clemson, they're really where they are as a football team right now because of their defense. And that's just pretty clear and simple to me. So Ungulele, he's got size, he's got traits, could still definitely develop, but I just don't see him ever becoming much at the NFL level. I think compared to the rest of these guys, might have the lowest ceiling, might also have the lowest floor. So that just puts him here at 8 for me. Number 9, we have Tanner McKee, and this might be a little bit of an unpopular pick, but I see the allure for sure. I think he's really kind of like that more old style quarterback that used to be so much more popular 10 years ago. Where he's a guy that he has mobility. Obviously, he's young, but he's 6'6", 230. He can stand in the pocket. He can deliver a strike. The issue is I don't see him being a good starter. I guess it's just to put it simple. He doesn't really have any elite traits. He's not like great at reading a defense or whatever. And I think in today's NFL, like if you're not athletic, you need to be pretty dang good at reading a defense to kind of succeed at that next level. And I just don't feel that he is elite on that part of the game. And of course, like I've been saying, any of these quarterbacks can develop, especially given proper coaching and stuff. But with McKee, like I get the allure, I guess, that he will probably be, a backup that floats around the league. Like he'll have a job most of the time, but I just don't know if he's a guy that I'd want. Um, Even though, again, I totally get it why people do like him. I just don't. think that type of quarterback is going to work much longer in the NFL. Um, and especially if you're not great at what those kind of quarterbacks need to be great at nowadays. So for me, I'm a little bit lower on him. I don't know where most people have him, but for me, Tanner McKee's at 9, still worth a pick, absolutely. But yeah, he's a little underwhelming compared to some of these other guys with such high upsides. And then number 10, ending off the list, we have KJ Jefferson, who I see a lot of love for, and I feel it. Like KJ Jefferson he's a pretty good quarterback. Now, he's listed here at 10 for a reason, right? He's a day 3 pick to me. He's not going to be a starter, but I think he's a guy that absolutely could be a very good backup. He's got good size, but he's also got really well mobility, and I think that's exactly what I look for in a backup quarterback is like someone who can go in there, be athletic, go off script, but execute what you want him to execute. And he does it, right? He's got 1 pick this year. He's accurate. He's clean. He just doesn't have that high upside. And I think that's kind of why he lands here at 10 because the former 9 guys can all be starters. KJ Jefferson's not a starter. And that's just kind of the plain and simple truth. He's not a starter, but I could very well see him being a great backup. So for me, like I'd rather take Tanner McKee with the potential of him being a starter than someone I know is going to be a backup, which is why he's here at 10. No idea where he would go in the 4th or 7th. Kind of, not sure what teams think of him, but I like him. He's my number 10. He'd be my first choice to take as like a backup quarterback in this class. Some guys that barely missed the list, kind of like 11 through 15. Let me pull up my rankings actually really quick to get these guys in order. Number 10 or number 11, Jaden DeLora, Arizona. Might like if he goes back one more year. 12, Grayson McCall. He's been pretty solid for Coastal this year. 13, Bo Nix, who has really started to improve in some aspects. I still think he's probably not drafted, but there's actually maybe some upside potentially there. Michael Penix, who I know people are much much higher on. I'm not quite. I don't see an NFL future for him really, but someone at least interesting to take after the draft. And then 15, Aiden O'Connell, who, kind of similar to Tanner McKee, like a pro-style quarterback, but, a decent bit of upside with him there. But that is going to do my midseason quarterback rankings. I'm planning to do like one of these videos for positions like every Tuesday. I want to do power rankings Wednesday, mock drafts Thursday, and weekly predictions as well, of course, with other stuff mixed in. Trade deadline is today, so this video is probably going to be out afterwards. So potentially trade deadline grades, we'll see. But if you guys like the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Really helps out and would be greatly appreciated. And share the content if you like it and you want to share with your friends. Until then, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.